And here we are, about to take a look at the new balance changes that might hopefully come to either the test server or live pretty soon. We had a Scrolls dev blog post, I think. Let me just find it. Hi folks, we've been working on collecting proposals, feedbacks, and ideas for a balance patch coming relatively soon. I thought I'd share the current proposal with you guys. Please leave any feedback on Reddit, Scrolls Guide, or similar. Well, this is my way of leaving feedback. See the list of proposed changes here. See you on the battlefield. So that was posted by Mons today. And it's quite a list actually. First off, we have the Earthborn Mystic. There she is. So they want her down to 3 health. And I am actually fine with that. Like, I don't think this is at all a change in response to Scum Mystic, but more related to Gagro. Because Gagro decks in general, they just have that power because they can use Earthborn Mystic to draw those critical enchantments. And that makes her ability so powerful. And, on top of that, she's a 2/2/4 at 3. It's too powerful. So I am very happy with her being reduced to 3 health. So yeah. Next up, I think, is the Crow. And she just outright will destroy an attacking unit now. It doesn't have to be in melee combat. And her health is buffed to 3 as opposed to 2 as it is now. Fierce Tactics is down to 3 growth from 4. That's pretty cool, I think. Yeah, I've wanted this change for ages, so I think this is fine. So Earthbound is currently magic resistance 2, and they are increasing that to magic resistance 2. They're increasing it from 1 to 2 with no other change, and I'm fine with that as well. I would have preferred the old thing though, where you couldn't move a unit enchanted with Earthbound. That was so much cooler. And those were all the changes for growth. There was only 5 scrolls in total change: Earthbound Mystic, the Crone, Fierce Tactics, Vitriol Aura, and Earthbomb. Vitriol Aura was a bug fix. They removed that you could apply it to structures, which you weren't intended to do, I guess, but it's a fun combo. So next up we'll move on to the Decay Scrolls. Fierce Tactics I think will be used because you can now kind of turn it into a god hand. Fierce Tactics plus Rallying 8 cost, and in some ways you will maybe get that extra attack from Relentless, being carried over. So yeah, it might work. First up is Miasma. Well, let's have a look at that one. So it says it's reworked as a 3 cost, and then when its countdown reaches 0, a random enemy unit is poisoned. I assume they mean creature, not unit. And if it's the same countdown, 1, I think that's pretty neat. Because it basically becomes sort of like a reusable Ranger's Bane for 3 cost in the form of a structure. And yeah, that is pretty cool. And it allows you to poison warded units if you have luck on your side. This is going to be enjoyed by a lot of people, I think. Cluster Hex has been changed into a 5 cost, which will now give Curse 2. So that probably means that the Curse control decks will be back. And this time around, I think it's probably going to be fine, because you can play around Cluster Hex. You couldn't play around Bloodline Taint before. But, I mean, this will obviously go into the Sumata control decks, first of all. And, yeah, I could envision some sort of Sumata deck control that uses the Baleful Witches, pulling them from Sumata shifts, and mass poison if it can through the Blightbearer. It will be interesting to see. I think it's a fair change, though. I am okay with it because Cluster Hex wasn't really played before, so any buff to it is pretty good. Next up, the Umlasa High Guard has been changed from a 6/4 to a 5/5. And that alone, I think, is going to make it super playable. Because at 5 health, it's the only other, the only other aside from the Witch Doctor that has 5 health. It's only the, let's see, the Witch Doctor and the Life Sealer that currently have 5 health in Decay. So now Decay has another 5 health powerhouse. And on top of that, this has additional benefits as a, what's it called? A blocker, because it will also reduce the attack of the front unit attacking. So I think this will be quite playable, actually. You could now envision a sort of meaty, creature-based Watchergeddon mid-range deck. Build your board position, use a couple of the upcoming scrolls I'm going to discuss here to, slowly whittle away at your opponent, and then play a Necrogeddon. But the next Umlasa fella that's been changed is Halls of Umlasa. So the way it has been changed now is it sifts from a random selection from the discard pile instead of the last 3 scrolls. I think that's how it works now. So it becomes less reliable. You still got the same card draw, and yeah, like it's whatever. I think it's fine. Especially when you think about the control decks, like they won't be able to constantly reuse the same spell over and over again for Baleful Witch Curse combos, for Damning Curse, for things like that. Moodoo Fighter has been changed from Magic Resistance 1 to Magic Resistance 2. I am very happy with that change. Because it has 2 health, you have to kind of value it differently. Like, it is so vulnerable to attacks that I think it's fine that it's not as vulnerable to spells. Because right now, it will actually stand up against even a burn. It will survive a spark, completely unharmed. But it will still die to Soul Steal, and I think that's fine. Like, this makes Moodoo Fighter stronger against the things that it's weak against, spell damage. It can still be killed by a double ragged, by anything with 2 attack, but at least it will die through combat now. Unless you're playing against Decay. Next up after that is... Okay, so here's the thing. Infected Gravelock, Mangy Rat, and Festering Freak will now have the Poisonous trait. And I'm happy with this because I sent off an email to Henrik ages ago. This was just this massive list of changes I wanted to see. And one of them was Poisonous. Basically, simplify poisonous. Like, these fellas, they can all work in the same way, in my opinion. And they've done that now by introducing poisonous, which is basically the Festering Freaks effect. And it's when something runs into that unit, it gets poisoned. When this unit attacks into the unit, I presume they mean deals damage to the unit, that unit becomes poisoned. So now, whether you're being attacked or whether you are attacking, these units will probably be paying off just slightly. Not sure if they remove the move on the Infected Gravelock, but that would also be cool. But I see no mention of it. So yeah, wanted to see the poisonous trait in the game, and they've added it, so I'm happy. Next up is Atrophy. It used to be reduce attack by 5, now it's just reduce the unit's attack to 0. And this is pretty good. Like, I can actually pull off my redesign combos now. Because this will guaranteed, combined with redesign, result in a one-hit combo. Well, two-hit combo. So with 3 resources, you can reduce the attack of any creature to 0, and then you can play redesign. And you switch the 0 attack with the health value. Their health becomes 0, and they die. So I think that is a pretty nice change. I'm gonna see if I can pull off the redesign Decay energy deck again. It used to be my favorite deck, but it's so hard to play. After that is another crazy buff. This is a super crazy buff. Blightseed. It used to be a 4-cost Decay spell. Now it's a 2-cost Decay spell. And that makes it so easy to just put in your Decay deck. Like, if you have the Scryers and this out, it becomes a 5-card, 5-cost combo that will immediately draw you a scroll. And if that Scryer survives, you will draw 2 more scrolls and your current decay is increased by 2. And I think that is pretty crazy. This is one of the best draws in the game now. Like, seriously, it's so good. 2 decay to get 2 scrolls and increase your current decay by 2. It becomes a free card. It pays for itself. That's a crazy thing. You're paying current decay 2 now, and you get +2 current decay back your next turn. So yeah, this will probably go into every single decay deck. Because even if you don't run Scryer, you can put this on anything. Like, you can put this on an Blightbearer. You know, you can be fine with him dying. You can put this on an Oblivion Seeker. It's great. Because with 2 decay, you can make the gamble. Sometimes you don't even need the 2 decay. So yeah, you do this. I like this. This is really gonna buff up mid-range and late-game decay. This could be really good in aggressive decks. I could play this in Undead deck. Not quite, actually. The Corpus Collector, on the other hand, you could play in an Undead deck. Because they are considering changing it to a 3-2-4. So it will have 3 attack, 2 health, and 3 attack, 2 countdown, and 4 health. Something to note, by the way, some of these scrolls, they are unsure about changing them, and the Corpus Collector is one of them. Now, I think this change is a good idea. Yes, it's really cool. It's a Corpus Collector. He has 4 attack. Wow, that's super unique among the forecasts. But it's not used. And if a scroll isn't really used, it doesn't really matter how cool it is, because you never get to see how cool it is. So I would prefer this as a 3-2-4. I think that would be... when you think about it, the Cursemonger is a 3-2-4, right? And it has range attack. You normally count the range attack as a point. So without the range attack, it should have 4 attack. So why isn't the Corpus Collector just a 4-2-4? Think about that. It sounds to me like that would be balanced. Yes, the Sister of the Bear is shit, but that's because she is shit. She is undervalued. She's under the curve. You know, a 4 cost should have the vanilla stat line of 4-2-4 and an ability, in my opinion. So I would be fine with the Corpus Collector being a 4/2/4. It would be one of the best creatures in the game, sure, but there's a lot of creatures that are some of the best creatures in the game. And yeah, either way, 3/4, I'm happy with that change. I am super happy with that change. It will see a lot more play. It will see play in more standard Washigeddon decks. It will see play in undead decks, potentially. And yeah, it's really cool. I approve that change in case Mojang is uncertain. Next up is Totem of Suffering. They've just upped its health to 4, and that is fine change. You didn't really see the scroll played as much. I suppose because the Watcher is better in anything Necrogeddon combo related. But at 4 health, I think this might be playable. Yeah, I suppose it might be. Thing is though, the health doesn't really matter as much because you put this on the back row. So the health increase, I mean sure, you prevent burns. I suppose that's the thought behind it. But I think this would be better at 3 cost. Or heck, at 3 decay and 4 health, because compared to a Watcher, the Watcher is a 2 decay, 4 health structure, and it has basically a twice as powerful effect, but that is more conditional. This thing has only a 1 damage dealing effect, but it's unconditional, it always happens. So I think this would be fine at 3 decay and 4 health. Yeah, it survives Quake, that is also pretty cool. Alright. Beetle Stone is a 1 cost. Pretty cool, I'm happy with this. You can do some crazy Beetle Stone shenanigans now. Okay, so you have your Beetle Stone on the board. You have 2 Beetle Stones in hand. You play 1 Beetle Stone, you deal 2 damage to their idol. You then sacrifice for cards. You draw back that Beetle Stone again. No, you'd have to do it this way. So you have 2 Beetle Stones in hand, 1 on the board. So you put down 1 Beetle Stone, 2 damage down to the idol. You put down another Beetle Stone, 4 damage dealt to the idol. You then sacrifice for cards. 2 Beetle Stones pop into your hand. You put down another one at 6 damage on the board. You put down yet another one that is 8 damage down to your opponent idols. And at only like 6 decay or something. Yeah, this is cool. And then if you throw in summons, you can just keep on drawing these Beetle Stones. Like victory through a Beetle Stone is now actually not that hard to achieve. You could potentially at turn 6 play 6 Beetle Stones, dealing 12 idol damage. Okay, that would deal 10 damage because it isn't dealing it when it comes into play. But yeah, this is cool. I am happy with this change. Okay, so Unforeseen Onslaught, they basically just change the spelling. I didn't realize that it was misspelled. Unforeseen Onslaught. Unforeseen. Oh yeah, this is actually... I'm surprised no one had noticed this. It should be F-O-R-E. S-E-E-N. Okay. Monstrous Brood is now a 4 cost. As opposed to it being a 5 cost. Yeah, I think that is fine. I would have preferred a buff to the monstrosity itself, but I guess they are fine with it. And I suppose if you make the Monstrous Brood cheaper, it's finer. Yeah, at 4 cost, it's alright. It's decent. It basically combos now easier with Rat King and Bunnies, I suppose. Becomes an 8 cost combo total. Okay, and that's it when it comes to the decay balance upcoming changes. Let's see now. Okay, away that goes. and move on to order. So with order, they haven't actually decided on a change. They have these suggested: either no idle healing, or no unit healing, or it will cost 6 but only draw 1 scroll. Now that last one should be disregarded. Awful, awful idea. Because at 6 cost, being able to ramp up, that'd be broken. Like, I'm pretty sure that everyone is going to agree with me. That's the option they should not go with. Like, just no. No, 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 no. Yeah, that's an awful idea. The no unit healing change, I think that would be interesting. It would make poison more guaranteed against order. You know, it wouldn't be this sort of, okay, I probably can't even brainlize this fella because he's going to heal him up anyway with Imperial resources next turn. And I think that it wouldn't stop order from kind of ramping away, healing up their idols, but it would allow you to slightly contest for the board as they are doing that. And I think that would make more interesting gameplay in general. Because the alternative, no idols are healed, I mean, yeah, that's fine, because they can't heal up their idols away from the darkening range. And that would also be pretty fine. Actually, it might be even better, because if the Imperial Resource player is trying to drag out the game too long, they will die to indirect idle damage. And or direct idle damage if that player has, piercing damage, if you're energy, or you have rumble if you're growth. So, thing is, what if you removed all the healing? So you don't have idle heal, you don't have unit heal, and sure, then you can maybe reduce it down to 6 order. Would that be an alright change, perhaps? I think actually I would like that. Because healing your idols is stalling. You're delaying the game, you're making the game longer. Clearly, if Mojang want to acquire more users, they're probably going to draw them from places like Hearthstone. Players who are tired of the RNG. And if you're going to do that, you don't want to cause even longer games. You want shorter games. And a way to make a shorter game is to ensure that idols cannot be healed as easily. And being able to heal all of your idols by one is, in my opinion, too powerful. Because it results in that sort of like, just one more idol hit, but now he's healed it, now you gotta wait some more time. And yeah, I think reducing the idol healing would put an upper limit to how long the games could go on. So I would be happy with removing idle heals. And, in many ways, that would make, undead indirect idle damage decay deck stronger against order. And I think that would be fine. But I'm happy with either removing idle healing or unit healing. But I'd like to see if they could remove both. Even if that means reducing the cost of Imperial resources down to 6 order. Next up is the Righteous Partisan. He's currently a 3-2-3. They are changing him to a 2-2-3, and I think that's a nice change. I don't like, though, the way they are approaching both the Partisan and the Gallant Defender, but I'll leave that for another day. As it is, I prefer what they are doing to him than keeping him as is. Gallant, in turn, has been reduced to a 1 attacking creature. I would want to see the armor buff being slightly harder to achieve, so you have to have less units. But this is better, I guess. Okay, Prisoners of Wars will now increase your current wild by 1. I think that's an awful change. I'm not sure what gave them this idea. Like, I'm gonna blame that Overlord or someone. I don't know. It just feels dumb to me. Because if you give them wild, ah, I don't know. Essentially, what it means is that Prisoner of Wars becomes a forecast. Yeah, I don't like it. Because that means that your Ragged, your Copper, your Ripper, whatever it is, your Revenant, will now be playable. But that's not what people are going to do. They're going to use that wild to do more stuff on that turn. You can now play a Prisoner's Wall and a Blessing, where you previously at 5 order could only play 1. You can now play a Prisoners of Wall, Focus. You're counting down your Arbalest gear by 2, and you're gaining cards that you can then sacrifice next turn. So I think this becomes too powerful. So I get the idea. They want to, you can now play these creatures you're drawing. That's a nice thematic change. But it's just going to result in you just doing more order stuff. Alternatively, if this was you now gain 1 current decay, 1 current energy, and 1 current growth, then I would be fine with it. Because you would, as an order player, not be able to use those resources for those order spells. You'd have to, play those Raggeds and whatever, and it'd be fine then. It'd become like a more expensive Rat King. Only instead of summoning rats, it is summoning a Ragged, a Dust Runner, and a Revenant or a Ripper. So yeah, if you want to encourage people to play the drawn scrolls, don't give wild, because that's not going to encourage that. Instead, give growth, decay, and energy. Alright, next up is the Wingspear. Okay, it's a 2 cost instead of a 3 cost. So basically, you have here a 2 cost that can get potentially 5 spiky. That is pretty crazy, and I think that's fine. You really need to buff the spiky units. And speaking of buffing the spiky units, both the Spearmans, so Royal and Ducal, will now have Spiky 3. That's right. They will have Spiky 3. So they will kill an unaugmented Rot Eater. They will kill a Partisan. They will kill a Earthborn Mystic. They will kill a Breaker running into them. They will kill a... what's that other Earthborn fella called? Oh yeah, they will kill an Earthborn Keeper. There's a lot of things they will actually kill now. How do you search for health? Life? Is there no way to search for it? There we go. Okay, so it will kill a Gravehawk now. It will kill a Mangy Wolf. It will kill a Royal Skirmisher. It will kill a Veteran. If you run a Veteran now into a Royal Spearman or a Ducal Spearman, it will die. That is a cool change. That will make those fellas a lot more playable. So I am happy with that. Go ahead with the Spiky 3. What's the harm? Ruse, in turn, has also been changed. So it's Linger 3 now. It is currently Linger 4. And they are changing it to Spiky 2, which is incredibly powerful. Sure, you're going to be pretty, screwed when it comes to playing against energy, because they will not have any melee attacking fellas. aside from the Ekumaton, and I guess other things. But versus growth, versus decay, and order, this is quite a potent card. Alright. After that is Stifled Ruse. This is a player-submitted scroll for the first contest. And currently it increases base countdown by 2 and current countdown by 1. It will now increase current countdown by 2. Yeah, that's fine. Okay, after that is Metempsychosis. So this is an interesting change. It will now preserve the countdown of the resummon unit. So if you have a zero countdown creature, you resummon it, it will be at 0 countdown. And that means that you can, in some cases, double the come into play effects without delaying, a creature's attack. So if you have a Righteous Partisan out, he's about to attack. He will kill something, but you also want a card. You can play Metempsychosis, and it becomes a card draw. Ultimately, though, it's not that good. It becomes expensive. We have to see more expensive creatures with come into play effects for this to be more valuable. But this is certainly a buff. I am fine with that. Redeploy has been changed into a 2-cost. Nothing else changed to it, and I'm happy with that. I'm glad they didn't turn this into a cantrip. And a 2 order, it's quite versatile actually. You can have fun with this in a aggro deck, like a tempo order or something else. Okay, Shrine. Other units you control have +1 health. So basically, the way Shrine is worded now, it suggests that Shrine itself should have the health buff. So, yeah, this is just a wording fix. And here's a Pother change. They fixed the bug with the Lockling Brood and Pother, because Pother will now say any unit on target tile is moved to a random adjacent space. It shouldn't be space, by the way, it should say to a random adjacent tile. So do change that. Change that, Atmos, please. Alright. Yeah. That is one way to fix the Lockling Brood bug, I suppose. Reversal has been turned into a 2-cost. Yeah, that's fine. Overall, though, I mean, the target scrolls that they should have nerfed, Imperial Resources, Gallant Defender, and Righteous Partisan, they've been a bit iffy about them. They're not sure about how to change Imperial Resources, and they're still unsure about the Gallant Defender tweak, according to this document. So I would prefer the Gallant Defender to be when you have less creatures. I would prefer, either of the 2 first Imperial Resources suggestions. I'm happy though with the Righteous Partisan. I think that's fine as a 2/3. They are changing Automata Forge. It will now have 4 health instead of 5. And we, just my first thought is, okay, Decay Energy is going to have a lot harder now against aggro decks, because this can sometimes be just a lifesaver. It gives you some pause to collect your units and have them actually attack. So we'll see about these other changes before I make a judgment. So next up is Hired Marksman. They are changing that to a 3/3/4. So it gets +1 attack. That was good. That gives it, appropriate stat lines, I think. The Cannon Automaton will now have 5 health. It is up now from 4 health. Very good change. Keeps its vanilla flavor, but actually makes it slightly more playable. In fact, this is, quite playable. Sure, you can compare it to a Witch Doctor. It has 1 more attack than a Witch Doctor and armor 1. Is that the equivalent of the Witch Doctor's ability? I don't think so. But it's good. It's actually decent now. At 5 health with armor 1, it becomes quite an interesting blocker. But the problem is it's a 6 cost. So yeah. Energy needs slightly bit more oomph than that. Snarglebrain will now give its health buff at 4 energy. So previously, if your energy was 6 or more, you get +2. Now you only need energy at 4 or more. And that could actually buff the 4 energy slightly aggro decks. Because you can actually play this out and benefit from it without having to ramp up too much. So I like this. And even in a standard deck, you will be able to benefit from this much earlier. You can play this on your turn 3, 2 cost creature, and then on turn 4 it becomes a +1/+2. Catapult of Goo will now increase the attacked unit's countdown by 2 instead of 1. Sure, that's a neat change. Conduit will now be a 3 countdown, 3 cost unit, and I'm happy with that change. It basically makes it slightly more on par with Power Trip. But, and here's the problem I have with it, they haven't mentioned it giving it a subtype. So I hope they remember to give it the Totem subtype. Snarglehunter will now have its effect triggered when it kills anything that isn't a human. And that makes it quite a viable scroll, actually. It's really only against Order that it won't trigger. But, versus Decay, trigger against the Rot Eater, trigger against Undead. It will trigger quite a lot, actually, versus Decay. Versus Growth, yep, we'll keep on triggering. It can kill Vaderus now, in addition to Beasts. So yeah, I think this is pretty fine. It's a cool change. And, he's a hunter. He's killing anything that isn't human. But it would be pretty cool if he killed humans as well, so, you could go slightly more with that. Okay, so Golem Skin will deal 2 damage to all of your structures instead of destroying them. I don't think that's enough. I think 1 damage would be good. 2 damage is still too harsh, I think. But yeah, overall, these energy changes, they're not that good. I mean, they're kind of buffing up slightly mid-rangey stuff, but I don't see much in terms of coping with, the relentless, early aggressive plays coming from Growth. Because Automata Forge at 4 health now, and I didn't see anything else there that would replace that as a kind of shield. It will make it a kind of awkward play when your opponent has a Brave out. They have a Ragged with, Crimson in hand. They have maybe a Mystic out. You can't really put that down as a blocker anymore. It will die to 1 Crimson Bold Brave, and that's not good. The Snarglehunter is good, sure, but because Order is getting a bunch of spiky love, that just kind of outbalances it slightly. Versus Growth decks, yeah, it will be better now. Versus Decay decks, it will be much better now. But versus Order decks, it will be worse if they are playing spiky. So, I do like the Snargle Brain change. I like the Canna Automaton change. I like the Marksman change. But the latter two of those two are more like mid-range control buffs. You need buffs for the early game, and I don't see any buffs here for the early game. So yeah, I don't know about this. The thing is, it almost looks like Order has gotten a bunch of buffs this time around. I mean, aside from the Imperial resources, the Partisan, and the Gallant, everything else is a buff. Yeah, they were kind of the last faction that needed a buff. But yeah, overall though, I like it. It's good that they are changing things en masse like this. I would like to have seen changes to the Brave. I don't think it fits as a 2-1-2 at 2 growth. I would have liked to seen a change maybe to the Vader, but I think that if you change the Brave into a 3 cost, the Vader problem wouldn't be as big of a deal. Because you'd have to pick between putting out a Brave on turn 2 or a Mystic on turn 2 if you have a Vader out on turn 1. And with the Mystic being a 3 health, that would have been fine. So I think moving the Brave up to 3 cost would be fine. They needed to nerf a lot more in growth. And they need to actually be slightly harsher in Order as well, when it comes to the Imperial resources, the Righteous Partisan, and the Gallant Defender. But I am happy with the decay changes. I think those are overall pretty good, pretty decent. And they will probably help buff up decay a lot. Yeah, I'm alright with it. I'm happy with those changes. So decay, good. Order could have been better. I like the buffs to the unused scrolls, but they need to be harsher on Gallant and Partisan and Imperial. Growth, again, they need to cover slightly more problematic scrolls. Energy, they need to do something for the early game. So with that, I think, yeah, I'm done with this feedback of the proposed balance changes coming in February. And yeah, I'm good with this. Pretty cool. So thanks, Mojang. I'll write this up at some point. I will also discuss this on Sunday in the Scrolls Talks podcast. Get some thoughts from the Overlord, see if I can find another guest on that show. And yeah, see you guys some other time. I'll do some streaming tonight at 8 p.m. I think, GMT +1. So 7 p.m. GMT. See you guys.